The command deck of the Valiant's Mercy fell silent as Sergeant Lyra Hale stepped forward, her boots echoing against the metal floor, with a confidence that seemed almost reckless. Commander Jakar, a towering Vrexian whose chitinous plates gleamed like polished obsidian under the harsh lighting, fixed all four of his eyes upon her with an intensity that had made seasoned warriors falter. Sergeant Hale, the commander's voice rumbled through his thorax, a sound like grinding stone. You stand accused of insubordination, unauthorized engagement with hostile forces, and... He paused, mandibles clicking with what might have been discussed. Endangering non-combatants, specifically the Karathi cubs under our protection. Lyra's jaw tightened, but she didn't break eye contact. Behind her, through the observation window, the refugee section was visible. Dozens of species huddled in makeshift shelters, the remnants of worlds consumed by the scourge. Among them, a cluster of Karathi cubs, feline-like beings no taller than a human child, watched the proceedings with luminous golden eyes. With respect, Commander, Lyra's voice carried across the deck, clear and unwavering. I did what was necessary. A collective intake of breath rippled through the assembled officers. One did not speak to Commander Jakar that way. The Vrexian had commanded fleets for 3 centuries, had broken sieges and shattered armadas. He was a legend among the coalition forces. Necessary? Jakar leaned forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over Lyra. You diverted from your patrol route. You engaged a scourge harvester ship with a single corvette. You risked the lives of 17 cubs to save a settlement that Intel had already written off as lost. Intel was wrong. Lyra's hands remained at her sides, fingers steady. There were survivors. 342 of them, including those cubs' parents. Jakar's plates rattled, a sign of agitation. You could have died. Those cubs could have been orphaned twice over. Do you understand the statistical improbability of your survival? A 97% casualty projection, Sergeant. I'm aware of the numbers, sir. Then you're either suicidally brave or catastrophically stupid. The commander's secondary eyes narrowed. Which is it, human? Before Lyra could respond, something shifted in the observation window. Tor, the eldest of the Karathi cubs, had moved to the glass. He was larger than the others, his silver-striped fur marking him as nearly adolescent by his species standards. For a moment, he simply stared at Lyra's back, his tail swishing slowly. Then he sat down. It was a formal posture among the Karathi, spine straight, tail curled around the hindquarters, front paws together. A position of respect, usually reserved for elders or war heroes. One by one, the other cubs noticed. A smaller cub with patches of orange sat beside Tor, then another, and another. Within moments, all 17 cubs had arranged themselves in neat rows behind the glass, sitting in perfect formation, their eyes fixed on the human sergeant who stood alone before their commander. No one had asked them to do it. No one had given an order. The command deck went utterly silent. Commander Jakar's eyes shifted to the window, then back to Lyra. His mandibles worked soundlessly for a moment. When he spoke again, his tone had changed, softened perhaps as much as a Vrexian voice could soften. The cubs, he said slowly, have made their position clear. Lyra risked a glance over her shoulder. When she saw the line of small figures sitting in formation, something flickered across her face. Surprise, perhaps, or pride, or something deeper that had no easy name. They followed me into that corvette, Lyra said quietly, turning back to the commander. I didn't order them aboard. They just came. Tor was the first. He looked at me and said, "You go for our parents. We go with you." What was I supposed to do? Lock them in quarters while I flew into a combat zone? They would have torn through the doors. Karathi cubs are not known for their restraint, Jakar admitted, a trace of what might have been humor in his voice. No, sir. They're known for their loyalty. And their memory. Lyra's voice dropped. I've been running supply drops to the refugee section for 6 weeks, reading them stories, teaching them human games. They trust me. And when someone you trust is about to do something dangerous to save people you love, you don't let them go alone. Even if it kills you, especially then, sir. Lyra met his gaze steadily. That's what my species does. We're stupid that way. Commander Jakar was silent for a long moment. His plates shifted, creating a sound like wind through armor. Finally, he straightened to his full, imposing height. The Coalition has regulations, Sergeant Hale. Protocols, chains of command. They exist because chaos kills more surely than any enemy weapon. He paused. But I have lived for 3 of your human centuries. I have seen 1,000 species fight and die. And I have learned that sometimes, rarely but sometimes, the regulations are insufficient to capture what must be done. He turned to address the assembled officers. Sergeant Hale's actions, while technically insubordinate, resulted in the rescue of 342 civilians and dealt significant damage to enemy forces. Her unconventional tactics, though reckless, proved effective. The charges are dismissed. Relief flooded the deck, but Jakar raised a clawed hand for silence. However, he continued, his eyes fixing on Lyra once more, you will be reassigned. Effective immediately. You are promoted to lieutenant and given command of Refugee Protection Detail 7. Those cubs. He gestured to the window where 17 small figures still sat in perfect formation. Are now your responsibility officially. Lyra blinked. Sir? They've chosen you, Lieutenant Hale. And Karathi never forget a debt. His mandibles clicked, and what she had learned was the Vrexian equivalent of a smile. Besides, humanity has a peculiar talent for turning lost causes into victories. We might as well make use of it. As Lyra saluted and turned to leave, Tor and the other cubs rose as one, their formation breaking into excited chirps and purrs. The eldest cub pressed his paw against the glass, and Lyra mirrored the gesture from her side. Commander Jakar watched the exchange, his ancient eyes thoughtful. Perhaps the humans were indeed catastrophically stupid, but in a galaxy being devoured by darkness, maybe that particular brand of stupidity was exactly what they needed. Maybe that's what would save them all.